Watch this. Right now, beneath a quiet suburb just across the river from St. Louis, there is a pyramid. Not a hill that looks like one. A pyramid built by human hands, 10 stories tall, with a base larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. 800 years ago, a city the size of medieval London stood on this spot. Tens of thousands of people lived here. They had neighborhoods, plazas, marketplaces, a giant circle of timber posts they used to track the sun. And almost nobody who drives past it today knows it was ever there. Here is the strangest part. We do not know what these people called their own city. The name we use, Cahokia, belongs to a completely different tribe that arrived centuries after the original builders had already vanished. So the largest city in North America, north of Mexico, comes down to us under a borrowed name, built by a people who left no name of their own. This is a story about 4 cities exactly like that. 4 of the greatest cities the human race ever built. And every single one of them was erased. 2 were deliberately destroyed by empires that wanted them wiped from the earth. And 2 were abandoned by their own people, then erased a second time by men who simply refused to believe who built them. One of these 4 cities was not killed by an army at all. It was killed by a ally. Keep that in mind, because in every one of these stories, the people who did the conquering are not the ones who tell you the truth about what was lost. Someone else does, and that someone has not appeared yet. 1,000 years ago, the Mississippi Valley was not a wilderness. It was a city. Monk's Mound, still looming above the flatlands, rises 10 stories high, an earthen pyramid with a footprint larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. At its feet, a city the size of medieval London spread across 6 square miles. Tens of thousands lived here, their houses clustered in neighborhoods, their lives revolving around plazas and markets, their calendar set by a ring of cedar posts, wood hinge, aligned to the turning of the sun. They built with earth, not stone, but the scale was monumental. 120 mounds, a central plaza, and a wooden palisade that marked the sacred precinct. For centuries, this was the largest city north of Mexico, a metropolis that drew copper from the Great Lakes, shells from the Gulf, and obsidian from distant mountains. But the name Cahokia is a mask. The people who raised these mounds left no written record, and the true name of their city is gone. The word we use comes from a later tribe, strangers who arrived long after the original inhabitants had vanished. The city's own identity, like its people, was erased twice, first by abandonment, then by forgetting. Around 1050, everything changed in a single generation. Archaeologist Timothy Pocketat calls it the Big Bang, the moment when old villages were flattened and a new planned city rose almost overnight. Monk's Mound was built in massive, rapid stages, towering above the landscape. The city thrived for centuries, but by about 1400, it was empty. For years, archaeologists blamed drought, flood, or environmental disaster. Yet new evidence, unearthed by Natalie Mueller and Caitlin Rankin in 2024, tells a subtler story. Their soil analysis shows the crops survived the worst droughts. The land did not fail. Instead, people seem to have drifted away, slowly, deliberately, walking out of history, not fleeing from it. Mahler calls it a slow walking away, a quiet unraveling that left the city's bones beneath the grass, waiting for someone to remember. No conqueror burned Cahokia, no chronicler recorded its fall. Its erasure was quieter, but just as complete. A city once filled with voices is now silent, its true name lost, its story told only by the earth. Stone walls rise from the high savanna, silent and unyielding. Great Zimbabwe, built by the ancestors of the Shona people, stands as the largest ancient stone city in sub-Saharan Africa. Its signature is the Great Enclosure, a sweeping ring of granite blocks stacked without mortar, so precisely cut and placed that the walls have endured for centuries. Inside, a conical tower rises, its purpose still debated. A royal granary, a symbol of power, or a monument to ingenuity. By the 14th century, the city thrived. Gold flowed from the surrounding hills, traded for porcelain from China and glass beads from Persia. Herds of cattle grazed beyond the walls. The city's reach stretched from the Indian Ocean to distant markets, its wealth built on long-distance exchange and the control of resources. At its height, as many as 20,000 people lived here, their lives woven into the rhythms of trade, ceremony, and stonework. Yet, when European colonists arrived, they refused to believe what lay before them. The myth took hold. Africans could not have built these walls. Instead, they conjured stories of Phoenicians, Arabs, or the lost subjects of the Queen of Sheba. Richard Nicklin Hall, the British curator sent to excavate in 1902, stripped away layers of earth and history, declaring he was removing the filth of the African occupation. In his wake, priceless artifacts vanished, and the true story was buried beneath a colonial lie. But the stones would not be silenced. In 1929, Gertrude Caton Thompson led a new excavation. Her evidence was clear. The builders were African, the techniques local, the pottery unmistakably Shona. David Randall McIver had said it before her, but the truth met fierce resistance. Even as late as the 1970s, Rhodesian officials censored research, fearing that proof of a sophisticated African past would threaten the foundations of white rule. Paul Sinclair, a curator at the site, was warned to watch what he revealed. The walls of Great Zimbabwe endured, but the struggle for their story was fought in shadow and silence. Here, erasure was not abandonment, but a deliberate theft, a theft of memory, of pride, of authorship. Whose version of history survives when those in power control the record? Carthage did not fade. It was hunted. For centuries, its ships ruled the western Mediterranean, slipping in and out of a double harbor that hid a circular war port, the Kothon, where more than 200 warships could vanish behind stone and timber. The city's walls rose above the water, defiant and bright with the wealth that Polybius called unmatched in the world. But Rome watched, and Rome remembered. Cato the Elder, returning from Carthage in 152 BC, ended every speech with a curse. Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. He did not stop until the Senate agreed. In 146 BC, the legions came. The siege lasted for months. Street by street, Carthage burned. The citadel fell last, flames licking the sky while the city's defenders fought among the ruins. Behind them, the libraries were scattered or burned. 50,000 survivors, men, women, children were sold into slavery. The rest was silence. Rome did not just erase Carthage's walls, it erased its memory. The conquerors destroyed the city's books, keeping only Mago's agricultural treatise, a manual of farming, spared for its utility and translated into Latin by order of the Senate. Almost everything else, the laws, the stories, the voices, was lost. What survives comes filtered through Roman and Greek pens, hostile, suspicious, incomplete. Richard Miles calls it a methodical deletion, a crime against memory itself. And yet, even the story of Carthage's end is warped by later legend. The famous tale that Rome salted the earth is a myth, born not from ancient testimony, but from 19th century imagination. Ridley's 1986 study found not a single classical source to support it. The truth is harsher. Carthage was not symbolically cursed. It was simply erased, its ruins buried under centuries of Roman ambition and the stories its enemies chose to tell. Tenochtitlan rose from the waters of Lake Texcoco, a city conjured into being by vision and will. Its causeways stretched across the lake like arms, connecting the island capital to the valley beyond. Canals laced the city, alive with canoes, while chinampas, floating gardens, turned marsh into farmland, feeding a metropolis of perhaps 200,000 souls. Fresh water flowed from distant springs through stone aqueducts, sustaining a city that rivaled the greatest capitals of Europe. When Hernán Cortés and his men entered Tenochtitlan in 1519, they stood in AWE. Bernal Diaz wrote of markets teeming with goods, temples gleaming with paint, and streets as broad as any in Seville. The city's order, its scale, its beauty, none of it fit the tales the Spaniards had been told. But wonder curdled quickly into violence. In 1521, after a siege of 93 days, the city starved, racked by smallpox and betrayal. The last defenders fell among shattered temples. The conquerors razed what they could not loot. Mexico City rose atop the ruins, its stones and streets pressed into the bones of the old city. The lake drained, the canals filled, the memory of the island nearly erased. Yet, the story left behind was not the Aztecs' own. Spanish chroniclers wrote of rivers of blood, of 80,000 hearts torn out in a single festival. The number is mathematically impossible, an accusation, not a record. Archaeologists Raul Barrera and Leonardo Lopez Lujan have uncovered the truth beneath the city's heart, a mortared tower, the Huey Tzompantli, built from the skulls of sacrifice, but holding around 600, not tens of thousands. The violence was real, but the scale was a weapon of propaganda, a story sharpened to justify conquest. Lopez Lujan's excavations show ritual and terror, but not the apocalypse that the victors claimed. The city is gone, but its bones still argue with the conqueror's words, whose truth survives when the ruins themselves are buried under another world's streets. History's erasers still walk among us, rewriting, raising, renaming. Beneath our feet, the ruins persist, waiting for someone who listens instead of conquers. The real danger is not what we've forgotten, but what we never question. How many more worlds lie buried beneath the silence of accepted truth?